So obviously, if you've watched my older videos, I've done a lot of budget gaming PC builds. I've done videos anywhere ranging from $250 PC builds all the way up to $800 PC builds. And the reason I do these videos is because I make these videos so they're aimed at people just entering PC gaming. Likewise, people who aren't willing to spend a whole lot on their PC, at least not at the start. However, oftentimes I feel like I'm leaving out my viewers who are looking to build higher-end gaming systems and have a bit more cash to spend, which is why I'm making this video today. Hey guys, this is Nick, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a $1,000 gaming PC that will be able to destroy almost all games in 4K and 1440p at 60 FPS. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So first off, for the processor, we actually have a Ryzen processor, and that is the Ryzen 5 1600X processor for just $220. So if you don't know by now, Ryzen processors are a big hit, and for good reasoning. Ryzen is quite possibly the first processor brand that is able to challenge Intel's processors. Before Ryzen released their processors, Intel really had no competition, so they didn't really make any world-changing advancements to their processor throughout the past few years. Sure, if you have a Skylake processor, it's probably going to outperform a Sandy Bridge processor, but over the past few generations, not a lot has changed. However, Ryzen changes the game. This specific processor, the Ryzen 5 1600X, is meant to challenge Intel's i5 line and has 6 cores and is clocked at 3.6 GHz, so gaming on this thing will be a breeze. And while not all games will be able to take advantage of all 6 cores, they still come in handy when video editing, among other things, and all this is for only $220, which is a steal. Up next, we have the CoolerMaster Hyper T2 cooler for $15. So honestly, I don't have a lot to say about this. It's cheap, it's affordable, and it does its job, and that's why I included it in the list. I'm not going to pretend I'm a CPU cooler expert because I really don't know a lot about them, but I know enough to know that a CPU cooler should do you just fine, and at this cheap price of $15, it's a steal. For the motherboard, we have the MSI X370 SLI Plus motherboard for around $130. So this motherboard comes in at a hefty price, but there's good reasoning behind it. Since this build is aimed at more of a wealthier consumer, it's designed to give you guys some upgradability with the processor I chose. It allows for SLI and Crossfire, so you'll be able to put your cards in SLI or Crossfire in the future, and not only that, but it also has 4 RAM slots, so you can upgrade up to 64 gigs of RAM in the future if you really want to. It's a great motherboard for the price of $130, which in my opinion is a great deal. Next, for the memory, we have G-Skill's 16 gigs of RAM clocked at 2400 MHz. So I've said this in many videos before, but I think 8 gigs should be okay for most games. But as more and more games are requiring 16 gigs of RAM, I decided to add that extra 8 just for future proofing, since games are getting more and more intensive and requiring more RAM to run. I still think 8 gigs of RAM will be fine for the next year or so, but 16 gigs should be fine for a long time, and should run most of your games pretty smoothly. Now, it's not clocked at the fastest speed, but RAM speed doesn't matter a whole lot in terms of gaming, and even in terms of video editing. For the price of $108, this RAM does its job, and quite well, may I add. For the storage, we have a 1TB Western Digital Caviar Blue hard drive for $45, and a 128GB SSD for $50. So for the hard drive, there's nothing too special here. I think 1TB of storage is a great amount, as it's not a ton, but it really should suit you just fine for a long time. And obviously you can upgrade your storage for not a lot of money in the future, with things like 2 or 3TB hard drives being less than $100, and even less than $70 or $80 in a lot of cases. For the SSD, I'm really glad I was able to include an SSD in this build, as I was a bit on edge about it. SSDs are big improvements to your computer as they allow faster load times and overall just make your PC a lot faster. 128 gigs isn't a lot, but like I said, I'd probably just keep the operating system in a few games that have long load times like GTA 5 on this thing, and life will honestly be a dream. I remember my old PC didn't have an SSD and it took forever to load into games such as GTA 5, and load times for booting up my PC were pretty terrible too. As I said before, you can get the hard drive for $45 and the SSD for $50. For the case, we have a DeepCool Tesseract Midtower case for $40. So I've said this before, but I just really don't think the case is that important. I mean, sure, it looks cool, but it matters more to me what's on the inside. But with that being said, I do think this case looks pretty cool. Blue is one of my favorite colors, and I just kind of like the look of this case, and it's pretty cheap too, only being $40. Next, for the PSU, we have the CoolMax 700 watt ATX power supply for $50. So 700 watts is a lot of power, and in reality, you probably won't need all of it. As I said previously, I wanted to offer my viewers upgradability for this build in case you ever decide to put your graphics cards in SLI. This is a great PSU, and it offers you a lot of options, and it's only $50. And last but not least, for the graphics card, we have the Nvidia GTX 1070 Windforce card for $350. So graphics cards are at a bit of an odd place right now, as I've explained before. Ethereum miners are price gouging GPUs, and as a result the prices have skyrocketed, but they're actually starting to come back down. Normally you can buy a 1070 for about $340 to $370, but since Ethereum mining has taken a hold of the market, the cheapest 1070 on the market right now is $460, which is a lot of money. Nonetheless, I'm still marking this card as $350 for future reference to this video. But other than the price, the GTX 1070 is a great card. You'll be playing most of your games at 1440p or 4K with it, and honestly, you'll be able to use this card for a long time. For $350, this card is an amazing deal. So, adding up all the prices, some being adjusted, the total price of this build is $1,007. With this PC, you'll have a lot of long-term use, and you'll be able to play most of your games at incredible frame rates at 1080p, 1440p, and even 4K. And that's about it for today. I hope you guys all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. If you didn't, go ahead and leave a dislike. If you want to see more stuff like this from me in the future, go ahead and subscribe and turn on post notifications. For now, that's all for me, but like always, I will see you guys all next time. Bye, guys.